Okay, well, thank you for joining us on this episode of Speaking to Hispanics, Thought Exchange. Today we're going to be talking about why we don't see ourselves as Hispanics on screen. And then I would sort of add to that, how does that impact our profession, our practices as marketers? So by way of introduction, we start with Anita Alban Gastelum. She's the chief collaborator of Den Mother, which is a marketing communications collective.
That's right.
Patricia Testa, who is the managing partner of D2H Partners. My partner, Marcelino Millares, also managing partner of D2H Partners.
Well, thank you for having me, both of you. So nice to be here.
Yep. So, not to sound too culture warish, but America is browning. Why aren't we seeing ourselves on screen?
You know, Marce, I will challenge you on that a little bit.
Okay.
Because I think that we are on screen. I think we're on screen in the big screen, on Broadway, in streaming, and we're there in a different kind of way. I think that Hispanics, both millennials and Gen Xers and even boomers, are used to having one star that they idolize for Hispanics, right? They want the A++, easy recognizable Latino figurehead. And I think what we've done successfully, quite honestly, is that we have diversified. I think that we're in the small screen. We're in big movie theaters, big launches like Transformers, and we're also in theater. But there's so much content and so much entertainment, right, that unless you're seeking it out or mining it, you may not know that that actor that you just saw is Latino or comes from South America, right?
Do we have to? I mean, that's the other question.
Yeah.
Is this the right question to ask? Are we seeing ourselves on screen? Is that even the right question to ask?
Well, let me challenge you back, because Gregory Navas wrote an editorial in the LA Times a few weeks back, reacting to a study that showed that only 4% of the on-camera talent is Latino.
Yes.
Right? So, and we're 18, 19. I think next year's census is going to show that we're pushing 21% of the population.
Yeah.
So that's what begs the question. I think what you're saying is that there's so much content now that's not related to a screen.
Right.
That we may be well represented there, right? But I think that the stats, the data says that we aren't represented on screen, at least like you said, in a major star.
Right. I mean, I think.
And John Leguizamo even, he added it to his Latin History for Morons monologue. Where are we?
Yeah. Where are we is that we have to mine for it, and as consumers and as viewers and as audience, we have to seek out that entertainment, right? So I think it's twofold. I think the onus is on the studios and entertainment properties to put out really great craft that talks about the Hispanic experience, the immigrant experience, that provides programming and entertainment in language and in culture. I don't think it's only in English or only in Spanish. I think it's both and sometimes mixed. But I'll also say that I've recognized that people want to see themselves portrayed in a very balanced way. Right? We don't want to be all goody-goody, and we don't want to be seen as very negative. But if we have a balanced portrayal of Hispanics with the humanness of the complexity of our characters and the storyline
And our
culture.
I think
our cultures. That's
right.
the other dichotomy. We're not one culture. So.
Our cultures. I think people are going to show up, but then the bigger question, and I'll tell you this because a friend of mine said this the other day, is when Dora, the movie came out, I think it's The City of Gold. I have 3 kids. I went to go see that movie. And people are like, why are you going to go see that movie? It had Eva Longoria. It had Isabel Monet, who's Peruvian,
Right.
or of Peruvian descent. Her parents are Peruvian. And she's very proud of her heritage. And I said, this is exactly the time that you show the studios that they have put a Latina 1 and 2, and Eugenio Derbez, I believe, is also in there. He was hilarious. You have to go support it because it's supply and demand. This is the marketing business. This is what we talked about. It's like, as part of our business, if the studios are providing the supply of, to your point, on-air talent, right, actors and actresses in leading roles, then it's up to the viewers to go and pay for it and go see it on opening day.
Or
Right.
They are.
Yeah,
They are. Like the average movie that targets Latinos in marketing.
Yeah.
They may not be in content.
Yeah.
But in marketing, 26% of the box office is usually is
Hispanic,
about average.
yeah.
So the market is there,
Right.
but I think the studio business is much like the rest of corporate America
That's right.
that doesn't.
But I agree with you, and sorry to interrupt you, but for example, HBO with Los Spooky, no one talks about that. Or Netflix with the Hispanic One Day at a Time, which unfortunately they canceled due to lack of support, lack of viewers, much to the chagrin of everybody and really the Latino political class that, oh my God, this is, but if the eyes aren't there, Netflix is a business, they take it away. Los Spooky, on the other hand, which is a really interesting phenomenon, is taking off. And HBO will renew it probably because
That's
it's taking off.
That's right.
At the end of the day, show business is a business.
That's right.
It needs to make money in order to continue. Now, is there an element of bias? Of course there is. Of course there is. And it will only improve as more Latinos climb that corporate ladder and start making decisions. But I think the lack of Latino faces has to do with the lack of not only Latino talent, maybe cued into Hollywood, to casting agents, to the people who make decisions, but also to the decision makers at a higher level. If we have, I think, a Latino corporate, a bigger Latino corporate structure, I think that's when we'll, I think, see effective change. I don't think it'll come because 26% of the box office is Hispanic. That has been the case for many, many
Do
years.
you think it's about the content, or do we think it's about the talent, the on-camera talent? Or do we think it's about behind-the-camera talent? Or is it, it's all of the above, but is there any linchpin to seeing more of ourselves on screen?
Patricia, I think you're absolutely right in terms of the HBO shows that did not see the viewer support. We would have to explore their marketing plans. We would have to explore.
Absolutely.
We would have to explore. How was that show promoted, supported, advertised, marketed, and to what niche should it have been so that it would have the eyeballs, right? And if it didn't, then that's kind of our job. Is
Right.
marketing programs that are made for Hispanics, by Hispanics, and where was the disconnect, right? So learning best practices, applying them, and then really evaluating them in real time, right? Not waiting till 6 episodes deep and go, oh, we didn't get the audience. Well, you should have been monitoring that in real time and seeing, okay, where are we not hitting it?
Right.
There's some misses here. How can we immediately correct it and continue to support it and give it some time to grow and create that fan base? Sometimes you got a great show. It's the right mix, right? This is art, and it hits a home run, and you have a built-in network of viewers. You have great marketing campaigns that support it at the right level, and it takes off. And that's what we want to see. But you can't do that very formulaically. I know that there's a way to understand the right way to market properties depending on screen, right? And audience, who your segment is.
Do you think that streaming is more open to the Hispanic market than, let's say, broadcast networks or even the film industry?
You know, that's something that we have to think about, because I think streaming is so innovative and it's so dynamic and real that it's on the go. You know, as you know, Jeffrey Katzenberg is going to be launching Quibi. I believe his new date is April 2020. And in the news, you see that he's very dedicated to Hispanics because he has a Hispanic slate, if you will. And that Hispanic slate is going to be capturing a very specific niche, which is millennials who want to watch content on their phone. So it won't be available anywhere else. And I think what we know as marketers is that Latinos are always on the go. You know, we're out living our lives and not necessarily in the house all the time. So specifically millennials who are in college or who are working and they want to, you know, take out their phone and watch good content on the go in little quick bites. So I would have to say, you know, I would hedge my bets on streaming. Disney's getting in the game, HBO is in the game with streaming. Obviously Netflix is dominating, has been for many, many years. People didn't believe in what they were doing, and they have a true culture of fanatics, die-hard bingers, right? That started with Netflix.
And Netflix is collaborating with Telemundo and with Univision. Latin American content,
Spanish content
designed in part for distribution here.
You know,
library.
Yeah, you brought up Disney Plus. A huge part of Disney Plus audience would you would think organically be Hispanic.
Yes.
Yet they're launching without any Hispanic push. We've got too many things going on, so we can't really pay attention to that. That's essential. I think that sort of underscores the way that mainstream entertainment companies view the Hispanic consumer. You know, I don't want to say with disdain, but with, you know, as an afterthought.
So as a thought experiment, if we had more Latino, Hispanic actors and actresses who, as you said, were just more cued in, had more agents, more tied into casting, decision making, and would that make the difference? Do we think would there be more Latinos on screen, or are there other impediments that are stronger than that? Because that's a very you could easily say let's get more champions in Hollywood, you know, but that's that's going to take a long time. You could say let's get more people behind the camera, but that's kind of generational too. They got to go through an apprentice system, and
that's right.
So, you know, the lowest hanging fruit is more J-Los and more Mark Anthony's. And
you know,
more
let me ask you something. Who is one of the most successful television producers right now? Robert Dorsey. You know, he started with J.J. Abrams, and Robert Dorsey owns I don't know how many TV shows. And do you see Hispanics on the screen on his shows? You know, proportionally, I think he casts as many Hispanic actors or talent as do white producers. And television is a producer's medium. It's not a director's medium.
That's right.
So, you know, we got one of us, to put it that way, but it's, you know, I think he feels more indebted to his the people who pay him than, you know, and rightly so. They are there to support him. So I don't know if that's necessarily the entire answer.
So from a marketing perspective, you brought up marketing. As marketers, how does it affect our business that our consumers, our targets, don't see themselves in Hollywood, don't see themselves on NBC, ABC, CBS, Hulu?
That's a big problem. As you know, I started in development probably 20 years ago, and that same problem existed. We're having that same conversation and that same dialogue and that juggernaut to say, we want to see our stories. We want to see our face and our image, or people like us, on television, because we can relate, and we feel that there's a sense of like, if I see someone who looks like me, sounds like me, talks like me on screen, it makes it like I can reach that goal. It makes me feel like it's not impossible. And that's very aspirational, but I don't think that we haven't figured it out. I think we just want to see more of it. I think very similar to corporate America, you'll see that corporate America and advertising agencies are trying to get more diverse. They're trying to be more inclusive. But they don't know where to find that talent. They don't know where to mine those people, right? Because it's not in their ecosystem right now. But if we create a robust, dynamic, real-time pipeline that says, here's your emerging talents, right? In terms of screen, actors, actresses, but really the magic happens, I would say, behind the scenes. An important showrunner like Shonda Rhimes, an important director,
Absolutely.
an important producer, an important cinematographer. I mean, in 2006 or 2017, Oscar's so white. Oscar's not so white anymore. I think they've really done a great job,
Right.
and we have to applaud the Academy for, walking the walk. They created an inclusive membership program. How? They started with the basic, inviting Hispanic and African Americans to be part of the Academy. Great job. 2, they said, we're going to make sure that our presenters are diverse, women, LGBTQ, African American, Asian. Fantastic. Thank you. 3, we're going to make sure that now we have that pipeline that can vote on the best picture, that can vote on the best director. Roma won. That's why I was saying to Marcia earlier is, we can't see where we've won and made inroads. Not saying that we've accomplished it and we're there, but we've made inroads. And what we need to acknowledge and applaud are those inroads, and the people who support immigrant stories, the people who support U.S. Hispanic stories and international film. We talked about, I remember once going to the LA Latino Film Festival and the San Diego Latino Film Festival. I was a groupie, and I would sit in those movie theaters for 2 days straight, binge watching movie theaters because there was no streaming. And that's the only place that I could watch great film in language or in Spanish and in culture. So to address your problem, I think that, you can't put the toothpaste back in. It's out. Everybody's trying to figure out this diversity and inclusion.
But I have to say, African Americans are much more politically savvy than Latinos, at least in the film industry. Shonda Rhimes said, you know what, I need control. I need to control. And basically, she casts a lot of African American in her shows as leads, as support, as whatever, in front of the camera and behind the camera.
That's right.
It's very inclusive. Who is this guy in Atlanta? I always forget his name.
Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry had to create his own ecosystem in Atlanta in order to have control, because the issue is control.
Are there any Latino ecosystems right now?
I think there are. From a director standpoint, I think if you look at Iñárritu.
The Mexicans?
Yes. Iñárritu, Cuarón. Toro, absolutely. They're there. And they're winning awards at their craft at the highest level. And
What about TV?
For television, there are. I think there's a couple things on television. What you're noticing is the big hits like Modern Family with Sofia Vergara. This is the last season of that show. And attrition happens, very much like the advertising agency. Yeah. So you need to know, well, what's the next Modern Family? And what's the next, Disney, ABC, Hispanic themed show that's going to replace that? I don't know what that is, but I know that Eva Longoria, just bought the rights to the story of the person who invented the spicy Frito-Lay, or como se dice eso? flaming hot Cheetos.
Oh, really?
The flaming hot Cheetos. That's a great story, right? But it's taking Eva Longoria to put that story out in an authentic, real way that people are going to relate to it.
Ugly Betty, for example, remember that was, and then
with America Ferrera.
And then
she's been very active.
Yes.
She's very active. She's still producing and directing and starring. And so what we need to really look at is a multi-dimensional person who is in the arts, right? Who can sing, who can dance, who can act, who can direct, who can star, who can write. And now you have that richness and the ability to control your narrative. And I think it's getting better. And I would applaud the studios to do more. I would applaud them to say, experiment. We talk about a lot of, what is it called? Lunch and learns, or tests and learns.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, in the advertising agency, you test and learn. And you put something out. Let's see how well it does. Let's see what happens. Let's give it a chance. But when you put it out...
And that's where streaming, I think, is so effective and efficient.
Right. Yes.
Because so I think what we're saying is the data is important.
Very,
obviously, it's an objective fact, but there's a lot more inroads going on, given the way that media is sort of amplifying in its way of distribution.
Yeah.
Right, that there's a lot more inroads going on, and we don't really know how much is being built from an ecosystem perspective. We see it more in film. It may be creeping into TV because now there's a lot of strong leads who are creating their own production environments.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I used to have a boss at HBO who, and it's HBO, content is king.
That's right.
And everybody demands good quality. Well, with so many services available, content becomes the key. So whoever can produce good content, regardless of the color of the face, I think has the opportunity.
That's right.
And that comes, then comes control, I think.
And it's ironic that we're in the Hispanic marketing business and we haven't mentioned Univision and Telemundo. I mean, they're the other side of the data, right? Arguably, they're 98% Latinos on screen. I mean, they may not all be from the United States, they're more and more, but there is a place where we do have a lot of representation. I think what we're talking about is the crossover.
Well, Sofia Vergara started on Univision.
She did.
And what does that mean for our identity and the culture at large? I think that's where the impact on marketing could be. Latinos are obviously watching general market TV.
Yeah.
They're obviously going to the box office, even on non-Hispanic content-related stuff. So we're buying into the culture. We're buying into the mass culture. But without seeing ourselves there.
Well,
that's a paradox.
Who's going to be the headliner at the Super Bowl?
Yeah, two
Latina women.
Yes, Jennifer Lopez and Shakira.
Yeah.
To address your question about Univision and Telemundo, because I do think that they do have a place in this new system. They're being disrupted. They are being forced to innovate. And I think, NBC Universal is very committed to Telemundo. Yes. I think Cesar Conde has done a great job with Telemundo and really building it to be, an excellent broadcast network. But he hasn't limited it to that. He's, applied some tentacles and extensions to his strategy. In terms of Univision, as you know, they're exploring selling Univision, and people say it's going to be CBS. So that's a run for your money. That CBS is going to diversify and purchase a Spanish language network
or a general market broadcaster.
Exactly. Whoever. So we have to wait and see what happens. It might not be CBS. It might be someone else.
Disney.
We have to wait and see.
So does that end up in compartmentalizing Hispanics?
Well,
like there was when the Latin Grammys began, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, one of the counter arguments was you're taking us out of the mainstream.
That's right.
Right? You're going to compartmentalize us. So I wonder if that's where mass media is going, is let's buy these Spanish language content creators, distributors, and we sort of cover that strategically. I wonder how much sort of reverse crossover there's going to be.
I don't
And
think,
we welcome it,
yeah,
because they're investing.
I don't think that's the case, because Univision and Telemundo have been around for so long that, and that hasn't happened. Studios know, and I think general market streaming services, and they all know that, as you said, the browning of the economy, the browning of the country is going to require some browning of the screen, regardless of whether they own or don't own a Hispanic network. I think Hispanic networks are standalone properties, and they have their place.
They do.
In the general ecosystem.
They're survivors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to reinvent themselves, and they're going to figure it out. And I think that that disruption and innovation for Univision and Telemundo, they're not going to go away. They're just going to be redesigned. They're going to evolve, and they're going to be redesigned for today's Hispanic. They're going to be re-involved for co-viewing across multiple generations. So, we have to wait and see how that plays out. I don't have a crystal ball for that one, but it's...
somebody used to say Telemundo is not your abuela's novela anymore.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you, I love some Univision shows, and they're like, well, what do you watch on there? I said, I watch all the gossip shows, right? I love Lily Estefan, I love El Gordo y la Flaca, and I don't watch it. I watch it because I enjoy it, and I like that it's in Spanish, and I get my gossip in Spanish, and I really enjoy that. So I know that other millennials also watch Univision, but they also watch Netflix, and they also watch linear television. So we can't be just one thing. Again, we have to be more diverse and have that understanding that viewing habits have completely changed.
And that's probably the path to seeing ourselves more, because there's more places to be seen.
Yeah,
exactly.
And also, I would like for us to evolve where we don't have to have this conversation, because you know what, we're one more element.
Right.
It's part of the norm, and you don't notice whether it's Hispanic or African American or Asian. They're there because we are there, or we are here.
I think in a generation or two it will matter. We'll look beyond all that.
Yeah. I mean, you see it in today's high school kids. They don't notice color. They don't notice racial differences. They're, because they're all, at least in public schools, they're all sort of melding in together.
Well, a lot of it has to do with that generation of high school and college is that they say, okay, I know you're mixed. I know you're half Filipino, half, Chilean. I know that your dad's black and your mom's white.
I know. Show now, Mixish.
Yeah, Mixish. So now there's a new show called Mixish
because it's blackish. Before blackish.
That's right. And that's the reality, because this country offers the ability to marry someone who's not of your own race and who you fall in love with. And I think it's very important to, I love being around kids and teenagers and tweens and high schoolers, because looking at the world through their lens is they say, I have a lot of different group of friends. I have friends who are Indian. I have friends who are from Pakistan. I have friends who, are international. And so they have a more international view. So I think that's the way to go, because diversity is not just diversity among Hispanics. We live in the United States, and we have the fortune of being around other immigrant children and their experiences, and we can really relate to them. And that's why I was saying, when you get a script that is authentic and you can relate to it, and there's rich characters, and it's the complexity, and we're not sugarcoating everything and making it stereotype, those kids that go to the movie go, that's a hit.
Or
right?
Jane the Virgin was a huge success on the CW. And yes, there was a lot of Hispanics, but there was Russians, there was this, there was that, because that's really the truth of Miami. Miami has a lot of Hispanics, but it attracts a lot of non-Hispanics, and it really reflected that community. Yeah. And I think people really like that. And it adopted this sort of telenovela style. It's been very successful.
Yeah, I think our production styles are creeping into to Hollywood. for sure.
Oh, absolutely. It's the Latinization of America in a lot of entertainment. I mean, case in point, music.
Oh.
If you look at music right now, I mean, pick up any of the Latin Billboards top 10. It's all Latin music, whether it's Maluma, whether it's Bad Bunny,
And
Pitbull.
collaborations,
Yes.
cross-culture collaboration.
Yes, and Maluma actually is shooting a new film with Jennifer Lopez. I can't remember the name of it right now, but you know, he's had such stardom and rise to fame with all of his collaborations, and he's, you know, someone to watch. And he's going to be doing film. He's Colombian. He prefers probably to speak in Spanish, but speaks English. And now he has his chance of, you know, he collaborated with Madonna. Now he's doing a film with Jennifer Lopez, and you know, people are going to go see him. They're going to watch him because there's a gravitational pull to seeing him. But music has been really phenomenal. Latin music overall has crossed over all generations, all globe.
And all continents.
And all continents. Was it by design? I don't think so. But was it by effort and a great rhythm and beats and this multiculturalism that we're talking about? Yes.
Yeah, good product.
Yes. Yeah. So can it happen? If it happens in music, it can happen in another medium.
And actually,
I believe it can.
to be quite fair, I think it's happening, and it's happening at a faster pace. We just don't notice it because we shouldn't notice it. I mean, we should just be part of the community. I mean, I know that's idealistic, but I really do think that we will be truly integrated when we don't notice our differences, and we're just part of the mix.
So we'll leave it at that.
That's great.
So thank you.
Thank you.
To anybody who's watching us, you can reach out to any of us in the credits at the end of the show. And we look forward to the next one. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
It's been so much fun. I love it. We could be here for days.
Yes.